Welcome back to the deep dive. So, when you look at an upcoming simulation update, like the really hyped Coaches DLC for Euro Truck Simulator 2, your mind jumps straight to the vehicles.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So,
You're thinking Scania, M&N, Volvo, those plush interiors carrying passengers instead of, pallets or whatever.
exactly, the shiny new buses.
Yeah.
That's what gets the clicks.
It is. But as we dug into the source material for this one, the real story kind of emerged, and it's less about just adding a vehicle.
And more about what?
More about kicking off, honestly, maybe the biggest infrastructure project the ETS2 map has seen in years. It's huge.
Right, so the autocars, they're the reason. But our deep dive today, it's all about the massive map surgery needed to actually support them. So our mission really is to unpack this whole painstaking process of overhauling the game's bus stations. These are the crucial hubs, right?
Right.
Where you actually pick up and drop off passengers.
And what jumps out right away is just the scale and, frankly, the age of what was already there. Before this project even started, the ETS2 map had, get this, only 7 basic designs for all its bus stops.
7 for the whole map.
7, covering well over 100 locations. These were essentially reusable templates.
And that template, in game dev talk, that's a prefab, right?
Exactly. A prefabricated asset. It's like a ready-made building block.
Like a Lego brick you can just drop in.
Pretty much. A whole structure could be a gas station, or here, an entire bus station that devs can just duplicate and place anywhere to save time. It works functionally, but it leads to a lot of, well, sameness.
And I guess when you have hundreds of spots using just 7 models, and most of those models are super old, that's a problem waiting to happen when a big new bus tries to pull in.
That's the crux of it, yeah. Dominique, the producer on Project Coach, has actually confirmed it. 6 of those 7 original prefabs, nearly 10 years old.
10 years, wow.
That's like an eternity in game design, especially map tech and visuals. They just, outlive their usefulness.
So what were the actual limitations? I mean, beyond just looking a bit dated, did they actually, break the game for the new coaches?
They limited things in a couple of ways. Immersion, definitely, but also functionality.
How so?
Well, technologically, those older assets often had simpler collision data, very rigid boundaries built for the tech they had back then, and visually, they were just static, kind of isolated boxes dropped onto the landscape.
Isolated boxes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's dig into that because the source material really highlights this shift, this move towards what they call natural integration.
Yeah, this part's fascinating. The old prefabs were often just surrounded by these, arbitrary fences or high walls.
I think I know the ones you mean.
Right, and those barriers weren't just visual fluff, they were actual collision objects. They define the hard edge of the prefab.
Making it feel completely separate from the city around it, like a little compound?
Exactly, like a box dropped in, not really part of the city's fabric.
So the plan wasn't just to give them a new coat of paint, it was more like knocking down the walls.
Absolutely. Total rework, total reimagining for those 6 old prefabs. By getting rid of those physical fences and walls, the new station asset has to blend in with everything around it.
The roads, the sidewalks, the actual map terrain.
Allowing for much cleaner transitions, much better visual integration. It looks like it actually belongs there.
So you're going from these separate objects to, integrated zones within the city? That sounds like a ton of technical work. Redoing boundaries, checking sight lines for over 100 spots.
It is. It really is. And the only exception, apparently, was the one newer prefab they had.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
It came from the Road to the Black Sea DLC. That one just needed a bit of a refresh.
Which kind of shows how much their design approach has already evolved, even just in the last few years.
Exactly.
Okay, so they've done the demolition, metaphorically speaking. Now they need to build.
Yeah.
Which brings us to phase 2. Going beyond just fixing the old stuff.
Yeah.
Customization, realism. It wasn't just about patching up the old prefabs.
Right. It was also about filling the gaps. Even with over 100 existing spots, the map coverage just wasn't quite there for a proper, believable coaching network.
So they needed to add new stations, too.
Yeah, actively scouting locations, adding new stations to improve the spread across Europe.
But hold on.
Yeah.
If they're already juggling 100-plus locations, wasn't there a risk of just making the map feel cluttered? Or repetitive with more stations? Why add even more?
It's more about quality, I think, than just sheer quantity. See, in the past, map designers sometimes had to improvise, especially in big cities.
How do you mean?
Like, maybe they'd put a tiny, generic bus stop near the city center, because the way the map was built back then, there just wasn't space for a proper large bus station that felt right for a major city.
Okay. So these new additions are more about fixing those historical compromises,
Hmm.
giving major hubs the kind of stations they probably should have had all along.
Precisely. Upgrading the presence in key locations that felt underserved before. And this leads into their whole blueprint for authenticity.
Right, making them feel real.
Yeah, SCS really aimed to mimic famous or historical bus stations where they could, and actually incorporate real landmarks into the station designs to make them feel unique.
Okay, give me an example. Like, how detailed are we talking?
Well, we saw documentation mentioning a specific example in Romania. Instead of just another generic terminal, they based a new station design on a really recognizable, unique local landmark.
So something with its own architectural style.
Exactly. So when you pull into that city, you're not just at bus station number 3, you're somewhere that feels regionally right, memorable.
That's a big step up from just reusing the same few models everywhere.
Huge. And this commitment to variety means stations will really differ in size and design, just like in real life. You'll get small town stocks, medium hubs, and those massive city terminals.
That difference is key, isn't it? Moving from just functional points to actual points of interest in the game world. But of course, they still have to work. Which brings us to the next bit, functionality and the driver challenge. These places need to be drivable, right? Especially with a vehicle that's potentially much bigger or at least longer than your standard truck and trailer.
And this is where the simulation side really kicks in. The work wasn't just visual, it involved a deep dive into like real-world rules and regs.
Seriously?
Yeah, SCS actually researched the real traffic and architectural regulations.
Yeah.
You know, the space coaches and buses genuinely need to maneuver safely.
Wow, okay.
Well-
That's some serious commitment to simulation. They're not just guessing the turning circle. They're designing the physical space based on actual requirements for these vehicles.
They're grounding the challenge in reality. And this detail came with a clear goal for the testing team, too.
Which was?
That the customized stations, the new ones, they should be deliberately tricky, challenging, but still physically possible to navigate.
Ugh, that classic simulation pain. I remember trying to parallel park a double trailer in some tiny depot years ago. This sounds like that, but maybe worse, with a bus full of virtual eyes watching you.
Pretty much. So the stations have to offer a real calculated driving challenge. Difficult, especially backing in, but never actually impossible or just unfair.
Okay, that makes sense. Tough but fair.
Exactly. The devs stress they engineered these new layouts to be tight. And then, just to spice things up a bit, they added one more potential complication.
Oh no, what now? Parked cars.
You guessed it. The documentation confirms it's possible, though probably rare, that you might roll up and find an AI vehicle already parked, maybe badly, in or near your designated spot.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. So imagine trying to squeeze a massive coach into a tight bay, and there's some little AI sedan just sitting there, blocking part of it.
That would make things significantly harder.
Yeah.
And probably more realistic, unfortunately.
Definitely more realistic.
Yeah.
The ultimate test of driver patience, right? Finish a 1,000-kilometer trip and then fail the last 4 meters because of some badly parked AI.
That is peak simulator right there. Peak frustration, maybe, but peak simulator.
And it adds that organic complexity the old, isolated prefabs just couldn't really support.
Okay, so we've covered the scale, the massive redesign effort, the push for realism, the functional challenges. Now we hit section 4. And this is maybe the most surprising bit for a lot of ets2 players, the wider impact.
Yeah, this is the crucial takeaway, I think, because these changes are so fundamental, messing with map boundaries, geometry, how things look and connect.
Right, it's deep-level stuff.
All these fundamental map changes, the updated stations, the new layouts, the visual improvements, they're going to be available to everyone.
Everyone who owns what?
Everyone who owns the base game or the relevant map DLC where the station is located.
Okay, hang on. Let me make sure I heard that right for everyone listening. You're saying this huge overhaul of the existing bus stations, the better quality, getting rid of those 10-year-old fences, all the integration work that happens for all players.
Yes.
Even if they don't buy the coach's DLC itself.
That's absolutely confirmed by the source material. It's a foundational update to the game world's core infrastructure.
Wow.
So it benefits everyone by just fundamentally improving the existing map, adding these better integrated hubs.
That feels pretty unusual for DLC, doesn't it? Normally, map improvements are tied directly to buying that map pack.
Mm.
Why would SCS basically give away all this base math infrastructure improvement?
Well, I think it's a case of necessity, really. A coach just physically needs more room than a truck, right?
Hmm.
If they just left those 6 old prefabs as they were, you'd have hundreds of broken or impassable or just deeply frustrating spots for anyone who did buy the coach's DLC.
Ah, okay. So
Yeah.
to make the paid DLC actually work properly and not break the game.
They had to upgrade the whole network underneath it. The fact that this benefits everyone else is, well, a really nice side effect.
Yeah, that says a lot about their commitment then to
Yeah.
the long-term health of the game. They couldn't just slap a patch on. They had to fix the foundations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that commitment goes beyond just the release day. SES confirmed the work isn't finished when the DLC ships.
Oh,
They plan to support it long term. Keep adding new stations, tweaking the base map more, making sure future map DLCs use these new design standards. It's like an ongoing refinement.
okay. So let's sum up this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
The coach's DLC, it basically forced this huge essential infrastructure upgrade.
Yep. We've gone from just 7 old, isolated prefab models, 6 of them ancient,
To a plan for over 100 realistically designed, properly integrated hubs.
which needed serious research into real-world maneuvering rules to make sure the challenge is tough but fair.
And we're seeing a big shift from just functional drop-off points to actual integrated parts of the environment.
And the kicker is, this whole massive project benefits every single ets2 driver, whether you buy a coach ticket or not.
It really is an infrastructure project hiding inside a vehicle DLC. Which, actually, the fact that this huge map redesign was needed just for buses, it raises a pretty interesting question for you, the player, thinking about the game's future.
Yeah. If bringing in passenger buses meant tearing down and rebuilding hundreds of spots across the map.
What happens if SCS ever decides to add another totally different kind of specialized vehicle?
Right. What if it's like massive, oversized construction gear, or maybe really specialized, high-capacity rail freight that needs totally unique terminals?
Yeah, what other parts of the map, the little town junctions, the low bridges we all know, those tight corners getting into stuff we just take for granted right now?
What bits of that assumed stable world would suddenly need to be completely ripped up and rebuilt just to make one new type of vehicle actually work?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Keeping a realistic simulation world running and evolving over more than a decade.
Every big new feature can mean fundamental surgery on the world itself. Something to think about next time you're perfectly reversing into your shiny new, beautifully integrated 10 years in the making bus bay.
Indeed. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.